people, it's me, Anya. My pronouns are she and her, and welcome back to my channel for a new video. The title of this video is pretty self-explanatory, and I have 14 books to talk about, so let's just get started. The first book on this list is called The Weeping Tide. This book comes out the 1st of February, and it's the sequel and the second book in the Wilderlore series. The Accidental Apprentice, the first book in this series, was one of my most anticipated 2020 new releases because Foody is one of my favorite authors. So, as a result, I have very high expectations for the sequel. Foody is literally so talented at creating and crafting such a wonderful, unique, inventive world. So I have such high expectations. I'm so excited to see what will happen next to these characters and the plot and the world building. Everything was so inventive and so wonderful the first time that I'm confident that she can top it with this sequel. So like I mentioned, this book comes out the 1st of February, and I'm literally so excited. The next book on this list is called Full Flight, and this book comes out the 22nd of February. If you haven't noticed, this list is in chronological order of release date because I'm equally excited for all of these books. Anyway, this book is a YA contemporary, and I'm absolutely so excited because it's written by the same author who wrote Amelia Unabridged, which was one of my almost favorites of 2021, so you can bet your bottom dollar that I will be reading this book. I don't think I've ever used that expression before. But anyway, this book sounds like it's going to be so good and so awesome. Amelia Unabridged was so good and so immersive and so well developed in every single element. So I bet that this book will also be so awesome and so well done. Second of all though, can we talk about this cover? It's absolutely so pretty. So anyway, this book comes out the 22nd of February, and I'm absolutely so excited to read it. The next book on this list is called 1,000 Steps into Night. This book is a YA Asian-inspired fantasy, and it comes out the 1st of March, and I am so beyond excited for this book. The author, Traci Chee, is a genius, and I love her. I have loved every single book that she has ever written because I have rated every single one of her books 5 stars, which is something that I cannot say about all of my favorite authors, but I can say it about Traci Chee because her writing is incredible and it's impeccable, and she is a genius. I have no idea what this book is about. I don't really know what any of these books are about on this list, if I'm being honest. But I know that I will read anything that Traci Chee writes because, like I mentioned, she is a genius, she is a queen, she is a goddess, and she is so awesome. If I could write an eighth, not even half, an eighth as well as she writes, I would be satisfied because her writing is so beautiful and it's so wonderful. So with that, I'm so excited for this book. And like I mentioned, it comes out the 1st of March. The next book on this list is called Kiss and Tell. This book comes out the 22nd of March, and it's a YA queer contemporary, and I'm absolutely so excited. First of all, this book is written by the same author who wrote the Darius the Great duology, which is so good and so underrated. So when he announced this new book, and especially when he dropped the cover of this book, it really amplified my excitement. His writing is literally so good and so well done that I have really high expectations for this book. And also, I think, if I'm remembering correctly, that this storyline has something to do with a boy band, which reminds me of I Was Born for This, which is one of my favorite books of 2021. But anyway, this book sounds like it's going to be so good and so absolutely awesome that I have really high expectations for it. Anywho, it comes out the 22nd of March, so keep your eyes peeled. The next book on this list also comes out the 22nd of March, and it is Ellen Outside the Lines. This book is a middle grade queer contemporary. At least I think it's queer. At any rate, I'm so excited for this book because it's written by the same author who wrote Anna on the Edge, which was one of my favorite books of 2020. So when the author announced this new book, as well as dropping the cover, it really amplified my excitement because, again, similarly to Traci Chee, I will read anything that this author writes, even though I've only read one book before by them, whereas with Traci Chee, I've read 4 books before by her. But anyway, the point is that I don't need to know what this book is about. I just know that I will read it because it sounds so cool and so awesome, and I already love middle grade, and I already love contemporary as a genre. So, anywho, I have really high expectations, and I'm so excited because Anna on the Edge was so awesome. So, again, I'm really looking forward to this book, and it will come out the 22nd of March. The next book on this list comes out the 5th of April, and it's called Shah and the Nectar of Immortality. This book is a middle grade fantasy, and it's a conclusion to the Shah book series, which I've been reading since the year that it came out. And actually, I believe that this series, and not the Gilded Wolves trilogy, was my introduction to Roshani Chokshi's genius writing. Her writing is so good. Anyway, like I mentioned, I've been keeping up with this book series since the first one came out 4 years ago? 5 years ago? I can't remember when it came out. Anyway, it was so excellent, and it was so awesome, and the 4th book in this series was one of my most anticipated releases of last year, so it makes sense that this book is one of my most anticipated releases of this year, and I'm absolutely so excited. The world building, the plot, the characters, I'm so excited to see everything that will happen next, because these books have never disappointed me. They've each been so good and so awesome. So with that said, I have really, really high expectations. So like I mentioned before, this book comes out the 5th of April, and I'm absolutely so excited. The next book on this list comes out the following week, the 12th of April, and it's called An Arrow to the Moon. Like Traci Chee, I didn't need to know what this book was about before I added it to my TBR. If you didn't know, this is the same author of The Astonishing Color of After, which is an absolutely incredible, awesome, hyped up book for a good reason, because it's absolutely so good. And this book sounds like it's going to be so good as well. I believe it's a YA magical realism contemporary, but at any rate, it just looks so good, it sounds so good. I can trust that Emily will write an awesome, amazing, wonderful book, and with that, I have very high expectations for this book. It sounds so cool and so inventive and absolutely so awesome. So with that, I'm so excited for this book. It sounds so incredible. So anyway, this book comes out the 12th of April, and I'm absolutely so excited. The next book on this list is called See You Yesterday. This book is a YA contemporary, and it comes out the 3rd of May, and I'm absolutely so excited for it. This author has written so many YA contemporaries in the past that have each been so good and absolutely so excellent. So when I knew that she was writing a new YA contemporary, I knew that I had to add it to my list, and I knew that I had very high expectations for it. This book sounds like it's going to be so good and so awesome. I know that I said earlier that I don't really remember which each of these books are about, and honestly, I don't really need to know what each of these books are about to add them to my TBR and to have really high expectations for them. But if I'm remembering correctly, this specific synopsis stuck out to me, and I think it's about a character who's stuck in a time loop with somebody that she doesn't like, and that sounds so cool and so unique and absolutely so much fun. So with that said, this book comes out the 3rd of May, and I'm absolutely so excited for it. The next book on this list is called Glorious Poison, and this book comes out the 9th of June, and I'm absolutely so excited. This book is a YA sapphic historical fantasy conclusion to this trilogy, and the second book in this trilogy was one of my favorites of 2021, and I am so excited for this book because it's going to be absolutely so amazing. I have no idea how this author is going to wrap everything up. Her writing is so good, and it's so awesome. The first book in this trilogy was so awesome and absolutely so incredible that it shocked me that the second book in this trilogy was absolutely so good, because I didn't think that it could top the first book, but it absolutely did. So I have really high expectations for the third book in this trilogy, but I know that it's going to be absolutely so good and so awesome. So, like I mentioned, this book comes out the 9th of June, and I'm absolutely so excited to read it. The next book on this list comes out the 14th of June, and it's called The Midnight Orchestra. For those who don't know, this book is a middle-grade fantasy sequel to the Mystwick School of Music Craft, which is such a wonderful, magical, wholesome, whimsical read that, of course, I have very high expectations for the next one. This series is so cool, and it's absolutely so inventive that I'm absolutely so excited. I have no idea what will happen next. Khoury is such a talented, wonderful author, and her middle grade fantasy series have been so good and so inventive. This book sounds like it's going to be absolutely so awesome, and I'm absolutely so excited to read it, because the first book in this series was literally so wonderful. So, like I mentioned earlier, this book comes out the 14th of June, and I'm absolutely so excited, because it sounds like it's going to be so unique and so inventive like the first one was. The next book on this list is called Sometime in Summer. This book comes out the 28th of June, and it's a YA contemporary, and it's written by the same author who wrote Summer of Salt, which was one of my favorite books of 2020, but even more so, I've read other YA contemporaries by this author before, and her writing is so good and absolutely so incredible that I have really high expectations for this book. I have no idea what this book is about, but I don't really need to know to add it to my TBR, because the cover itself is so pretty, and Katrina Leno's name itself is again so intriguing to me, because I know that her books, no matter what they're about, no matter what genre or whatever, actually, except for her horror books, if they're contemporary, I will read them by her. Anyway, my point is, Katrina Leno has such a good contemporary reputation for me that I will read anything contemporary that she writes. So, with that said, I'm so excited to read this book, and it comes out the 28th of June. The next book on this list is called Where the Lost Ones Go. This book comes out the 11th of October, and it's a middle grade sapphic contemporary, and I'm absolutely so excited to read it. It's written by one of my favorite authors, Akemi Bowman, who, like Traci, is a genius, a goddess, and a queen. One of her books, Generation Misfits, was one of my favorite books of 2021, so I have very, very high expectations for this one. Akemi's writing is literally so lyrical and so pretty, and it's so well done that, again, I will read anything that she writes. Her last science fiction book, The Infinity Courts, was one of my most anticipated books of 2020, and I am really excited for that sequel, but I will say I am more excited for this book. So anyway, her writing is so wonderful and it's so unique that I'm so excited. Generation Misfits was her middle grade debut, so I know that this book is going to be so incredible and so beautiful. So, like I mentioned, it comes out in October. The penultimate book on this list is called Silverborn, The Mystery of Morrigan. The final cover of this book has not been released yet, but anyway, this book comes out the 13th of October, and I'm absolutely so excited. For those who don't know, this is the 4th book out of 10, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not completely sure how many books Jessica Townsend plans to have in this series, but anyway, it's the 4th Morrigan middle grade fantasy book, and I'm so excited. This series is absolutely so fantastic, and it's so well done. Hollowpox, the third book in this series, was one of my favorite books of 2020, and I was already so excited to read this fourth book, but even more so, my expectations were amplified since I rated Hollowpox, the last book in the series, 5 stars. So anyway, I love middle grade fantasy. I know the series is going to be amazing because, like Shah, each book in this series so far has been absolutely so good and so wonderful. I wish that October could come so much faster. But anyway, this book comes out the 13th of October, and I'm absolutely so excited. So, the last book on this list doesn't have a cover or a release date, but it does have a title, and the title is Nothing Sung and Nothing Spoken, and it's written by this author, whose name I think is Nita Tyndall. That's what I've been saying, but I don't know if that's the correct pronunciation, so if it isn't, please let me know. Anyway, this author wrote Who I Was with Her in 2020, which was a great, wonderful debut. So when I heard that they were writing a new book, I was absolutely so excited. So, this book is a YA historical fiction, and it's set in 1930s in Germany, if I'm not mistaken, and it talks about a time period that I know next to nothing about, so I'm absolutely so excited. And I also love queer historical fiction books. I'm trying to read more queer historical fiction books, but even aside from the genre, aside from what it's about, I'm so excited to read this because Who I Was with Her was so awesome. So with that said, I'm so excited to read this book, but again, there's no cover or release date, so I have no idea when I'm going to read this book, but I will sometime in 2022. So, in conclusion, there are so many 2022 new releases that I'm looking forward to, but these are the ones that I have the highest expectations for. So, with that said, if you enjoy this video, please don't hesitate to give it a big thumbs up. Comment down below the orange heart emoji if you made it all the way to the end of the video. Thanks for watching, subscribe to my channel if you're new, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!